For a moment, I was thinking if you speak about me or someone else. So, thank you for having me. Actually, just to tap into what Ola said when he was talking about Uber, it always hurts being German because the current valuation is 68 billion, and Volkswagen yesterday is on a stock market like 69 billion. Just to put that in perspective. And Volkswagen is a company with 700,000 employees. They sold 10 million cars last year, so they're valuated by the markets currently equal to Uber. So this is just like a great sign how it's currently going. And just to tap on that, if you think about Tesla, so Volkswagen 10 million cars, Tesla last year sold 76,000. So not even 100,000 cars sold. Same amount like Tesla was yesterday, 63 billion. Compared to the 69, 70 from Volkswagen. So this is currently happening, and so this is why Ola and myself are so keen to talk about these exponential things, because as Ola said, they're starting so easily, like with this exponential step 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. But then when the exponential curve it's there. And just the last comment about Tesla, when they introduced the Model 3, 400,000 people put down $1,000 and said like, yeah, I want to buy that car. It will come out like in a year or in 2 years, but 400,000 people basically made a signature, I want to buy that, and that equals 17 billion in their books, like 70 billion of sales. And then a company as Volkswagen is like, oh, wait a second, that's actually like real tangible stuff. So for your industry, why I love to start with that is because exponential technology is coming to basically all sorts of activities. So this is like from the 60s how we imagined to live in the year 2000. And of course the 60s is different to 2017. Now we're basically in this exponential curve, and now when we have stuff that is exponentially getting smarter and more connected, this now really becomes a reality. Just to start with the big picture, even in a city context, we see these things happening. And thinking about some of the largest challenges that we face, for instance, around traffic jams or the chaos on the street. I mean, this is just crazy. This is like Addis Ababa something. And you see all the human errors. Think about all the parking space that is occupied by the cities, by cars in the cities. I really forgot the number, but you probably have it on the top of your head. I mean, this is large amount of real estate that is literally wasted with cars. And now with technology, we are now at the point of stage where we can tackle some of these problems. So, flying cars, it becomes a reality. So Dubai plans to introduce them in the next few years, Shanghai, Beijing, etc. Think about exponential technologies coming to construction, like even drilling will see exponential change. So of course this vision is far out, and it's probably 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, who cares? But just the reality that we will be able to build deeper and to build faster and to build cheaper, this will put away a lot of traffic from the surface down to the ground. Or if you have these self-driving cars, and this is definitely a reality, and like every single car manufacturer has it now basically in development. What I love about these concepts of like these self-driving autonomous cars picking up passengers, putting them somewhere and then driving around, this basically means we don't have parking, right? They're circling all the time. So I come to Epicenter, I get out, and then the car goes to the next person, picks them up. And as soon the batteries die, they go, charging somewhere outside of Stockholm. So imagine if we free up this, like all the space that is created there for real estate, from parks to living to retail, etc. I mean, that's quite of a nice future that we could achieve with technology. Around living, of course, all this is also coming true to our houses, to the buildings, to the living, etc. And I looked at the agenda. You have an amazing day ahead of you, so you will deep dive in some of these areas. Because literally there's thousands of interesting companies. This report alone lists 1,500 of them, and it's just like logo walls of exciting stuff happening. But I thought, to start, because I'm the first speaker, to start the agenda, I thought I'd pick out some of the companies that we thought are quite interesting, doing certain things in certain areas. So just to dive right into about selling your property. I mean, now in the UK, the first houses have been sold by just a Facebook live stream. So when the person was finished with her house viewing, the house was sold. right out of a Facebook live stream, and people were able to chat and were like, "Hey, can you go again to the kitchen, or can we go to the bathroom, etc., etc." Around information gathering, like me personally, I'm currently looking for something to buy in Berlin, and I know that's always like the difficult thing, like to get as much as possible information about the stuff. And now you have these companies where basically allowing you to have like better information about the property. So whether it's like hardware induced, where you can have like 3D scans and have like really beautiful renderings of the office space, or you basically are able to create these VR 360 walkthroughs. Again, I mean, thinking about property shopping, I mean, that's an amazing way to, at the comfort of your home, to dive into the real estate space and to check it out. And with the mobile phone. Like one of the nicest use cases for VR and for Oculus, I personally think, is Google Earth, because it gives you this amazing ability to walk around basically the cityscape and to discover your neighborhood, to discover what's going on there, etc., etc. Of course, there is tons of companies offering professional services. Companies like, for instance, Transported, allowing you to have these VR experiences really around the house. Floored is one of my favorites. Who of you has used Floored? Or yeah, go and check it out. It's just like a really beautiful way to basically have the information out of sketches, out of 3D data into these interactive floor plans. Stuff where you can have with augmented reality your brochure and making it more interactive with your mobile phone. This is also something I think that adds added value to a simple brochure. This is an interesting concept where you have like the virtual broker in terms of a concierge. So you have like your, basically a person that you can talk to, and based on your preferences, so you can select, I want to live close to a school or close to a ecological supermarket, and I want to have parking in front. So you do all the preferences, and then you have your personal concierge, and he helps you to dive through all these, hundreds of thousands of offerings that are there. And of course, with drones, you can have like additional information around the property, and these things are so easy to fly now that even I can fly them. So if I can fly them, you can fly them. What's interesting about them is because they give like a really nice perspective around the real estate. And one of the largest real estate projects in Berlin is at Alexanderplatz. It's the highest living space in Berlin. They use drones to basically show the difference between the 3rd floor and the 7th floor and between the 14th floor. So to give you really like a 360 degree impression of what kind of difference you are facing by having these different floors. And of course, there is again like tons of service companies that are helping you creating these kind of footage for your stuff. Where there's drones, there's also the opposite. So in real estate, more and more are now basically afraid of drones. So there's a really cool company from the US and Germany. It's a German-US company doing like anti-drone software. And one of the first real estate implementation was actually in Dubai, where when the building detects a drone on the top floors, it shuts down the blinds. So in the presidential suite, I mean, if you're afraid to being filmed, like as soon the curtains close, there is a drone out. A lot of yachts are basically using that, so for paparazzis, and you're able to shut down drones with it. So also, like am I doing okay, by the way? Good to know. Also like the type of information that you're able to display. So from just putting up a sign like, hey, this is for sale, like to having like interactive screens, I think is quite interesting, because these connected displays are really on the spot, and you can have way more information than just like a simple overview. Also really interesting for commercial and for retail, etc. This is just another also glimpse what I love about this one. This is a super exciting smart home project in Hamburg. If you don't know it, check it out. It's called Apartimentum. They put in everything of technology that I'm aware of that you can put in. But they've did something really interesting around making it known to the real estate market for a PR purpose. So when it was in construction, they were doing art events, pop-up dining experiences, gallery exhibitions. So by that, you know, there was not even windows in the building. With that type of PR events, they were actually making it the people of Hamburg aware that there is this new development and having press coverage, etc. Even before they had windows in the walls. So I thought that's a quite clever way to get the property known, and they had like a huge interest in that. Now, about buying a house, as you know, you're in a really, really interesting space. So congratulations, because as far as I can see it over the last years, it just knows one direction, and that is basically prices are exploding. So for first-time buyers that are currently looking into tackle that kind of like value creation, there is interesting services like, for instance, Stepladder, where first-time buyers can combine their assets and can buy property. And that service really helps them to have like a joint real estate and for the financial gains. Or you probably know all these kind of platforms where you can look into acquiring such a house. You can check out what's the price development of that area, and then you just define how much you're able to spend on that, and then you're a part-time owner of that real estate building. I've just then done a super small investment in Zinsbaustein for a Berlin property. But it's quite interesting. Within only 1 year, they realized 12 real estate projects in Berlin alone. And all the money in the middle, they raised basically from people like me, just going on the website and saying like, oh, that's a nice area, I know that. And you know, €1,000 sounds like a good investment for that. Around property management, again, there is like tons of challenges you can tackle with technology, mainly around communication, because we all know how difficult it sometimes is to communicate from neighbor to neighbor, or if you have a pipe burst. I mean, that's a real pipe burst, by the way. Like you're renting something and you want to contact the landlord, and there's these amazing things like All Things, and I know they're speaking today, and I think it's a wonderful solution to create these kind of communication channels. Cuneo, in extension, it's not only renter to renter, it's also tying in then property manager and service companies. So if something is broken, you can use those kind of platforms to be in contact with the property manager, with external company. And this is, I think, a far better user experience than the usual stuff like, hey, when is someone fixing my heating? When is this guy showing up, etc. Rather to have these kind of services. And it goes even to the extent of services like Good Lord, where you even have like legal contracts in place, all basically on the platform. And they're even able to have like passport verification with the camera. So you can really make legal contracts based on that platform. And even like the communication between my apartment, my house, my flat with me is possible with technology. So stuff like in the commercial space like Enmodus, where you have all these kind of abilities to have all those sensors, having the big data. And as Ola said, I mean, data is really becoming a new oil. All of this making available, and where you can have it within the monitoring, the communication to the stuff. On a private level, I personally really love this concept of ecoism. It's a company offering something where you put it to the fuse box, to like the central switch. So, you know, it's basically all the major currencies go in, and based on big data, it really learns about your habits. So, you know, you're opening up a fridge, and of course you have this little peak in the electrical usage. You switch on a light, of course you have this little switch. So over time, it becomes this super intelligent platform, understanding your patterns, your electrical appliances. And then, of course, it allows you to basically be, aware that, for instance, you left something open, there is like something on the oven still cooking, or something, some irregularities. So I really think those are some amazing developments around that. Around living for us, of course, there is tons of stuff currently happening around Internet of Things, around the way we use data. and how we basically you can use that. So there's a really interesting project in Portland where they basically put in everything that is basically able to connect. And the great thing is once you have it connected, you have again these kind of like patterns that you can create based on based on the kind of triggers you have and what you can have as output. So you have like scenarios based on time. So I want my apartment to be smart around like morning times. When I wake up, I want my apartment to do this and that, like switch on the coffee machine or heating up the bathroom, etc., etc. But when I want to leave, I want to shut down basically that the heating goes down, etc. So you can have all these kind of scenarios based on time. You can make it based on location. So Appartimentum in Hamburg, when you go into the parking garage, the house knows you're there. So it already calls the elevator. It basically prepares your apartment. You don't need to push a button or something. The elevator knows where you're going. The door knows that you're there. So you can make that based on location and, of course, also based on data. And you can tie in all sorts of stuff. So even stuff like, like urban gardening, you can now connect it with IoT and having these smart controls around humidity, etc., etc. It even goes to a way like, of course, this is like a prototype, but I think we all know that we can fall asleep while watching Netflix on heavy binge watching. So these are connected socks, and when they don't recognize movement anymore, so let's say you're on the 3rd episode and you don't move anymore, it stops the stream. So you will not miss any more smart home, so you will not miss anything. We will have kinds of like robot going to be introduced in our daily life, or this is an interesting IoT concept called Mother. You can actually buy it now, and what you do with Mother is you have these little sensors and you can glue them everywhere, like to the coffee machine, to the fridge, etc. So Mother keeps track of your behaviors, what you like to do, and then you can make these patterns, like when I wake up and if I put on my running shoes, I actually really want to have a coffee before I want to go, and you can do this. Now, of course, none of us want to, have like hardcore tech interfaces, and that's also the beauty that we will see more and more interfaces that are super easy to administrate, so that even like a technical average person can easily do these things and be able to have like smarter objects in it and have these sensors into it. On a commercial side, just to dive in a little bit about retail, I think what's happening right now is that we have all these things independently from each other. So we use mobile phones, we use web, we go there somewhere physically. But in the future, it's more and more like really like an integrated, seamless experience around the mobile phone. So I think in retail and e-commerce, I think we will look at a scenario where all these bits and pieces are fitting nicely together and where you basically benefit from each other. So just to give you, a few glimpses of that, what I mean. This is a concept from, not a concept, it's actually a real product from Alibaba. So if you're a Chinese user of that e-commerce platform, you can use virtual reality to teletransport yourself to New York, and you have like a real New York shopping trip experience, including a taxi driver that explains you a bit about Times Square. And then you're actually entering Macy's, and you have like a 360 VR experience of shopping in Macy's. Now, remember, this is like a VR goggle, so you decide where you want to look and where you want to walk. If you want to buy something, so let's say you want to buy that handbag, you're not like crazy. So you look at the object and you say, yes, 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 and then basically you have it in your shopping mall. And it doesn't stop here, so we will see crazy stuff. So this is a mask. So you have the VR goggles, and this is a mask that just goes underneath it. So you look like a complete cyborg. And what it does is basically it just enhances your whole experience, because you have like wind and water in your face. Like literally, they have the ability to even work with smells. So you can go perfume shopping even with these kind of concepts. And just to give you an example from the retail space, this is from Merrill Shoes, and I think what's great about this is they have in the shop, they have like a virtual hike built up. So you're having your goggles on and you have the shoe on, so you have the new Merrill shoes, so you're using the product and you go through the store, but you have this immersive, oh damn, I'm going to die on that mountain experience. Albert Heijn has something for augmented reality, so to have kids engaged at the store, because most of the kids don't really like to go shopping with their parents for groceries. So they have an augmented reality app where they can collect dinosaurs and trade them. Now, around robotics, again, exponential technology is also our for robotic stuff. So yeah, difficult, expensive stuff that doesn't work really well, we will see tons of changes. So this is like a real robot from Boston Dynamics. It doesn't even weigh 100 kilos. It can, touch glass delicately. It's amazing of the kind of versatility they have and the kind of mobility. This one can lift up to 200 pounds and can jump 1 meter high. So great stuff. And about interaction, of course, we don't really like to talk to like such kind of interface. But the human face has like 43 muscles, and this Android has like 43 motors. So it literally can mimic any human expression within it. And we will see interesting retail stuff with that. So in Japan, from SoftBank, this is like a commercial robot, especially for retail. It sells for $10,000, and for instance, it's used by Nescafe for their coffee shops, giving like a first customer dialogue with a robot. We can extend closing hours. So I arrived late last night, and unfortunately everything was closed. So on my way, to grab some food, I walked by all these amazing Stockholm shops that are closed. With technology, with like interactive displays, we can extend store hours. We can use location-based services. So what Sephora does, I'm walking by and I get like a voucher on it. Or if you think about Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is going to be identified with an iris scan, it's now possible to have these things based on beacons, allowing in-store navigation or added value services. Having smarter changing rooms where the stuff really reacts on what you're actually putting into the changing room, or even have a 3D scanner in it. So, once you go dressing, it makes a scan of you. So for the generation of the selfie millennial generation, we can offer them to have a 3D model and give them that as a PR stunt, having them as a virtual person, allowing it for mobile commerce and having great e-commerce experience. Even having chatbots now in the store to have like personal assistants, like, hey, I'm looking for this and that, and what can I do with it? There is even like smart hangers that are reacting on Facebook, so we can create experiences where we can unlock, for instance, fashion based on a certain amount of clicks. So this is all happening in the retail, or just like a glimpse. And of course, it has also an effect on the way we work, the way we're using offices. So this is like a real interface. This is not science fiction or something dreamt up in a movie. These are real interfaces coming to us with augmented reality. Of course, allowing us to work differently. We are able to interact with holograms or having like virtual meetings in that space. And of course, this is then a bit the over-aggravation for the ADHS person that wants to have everything in its face. But of course, we will see like amazing things around smarter offices, and what's been built in Amsterdam around the edge, I think is kind of like a benchmark, where you have sensors in every luminaire, where you have these really beautiful flexible desks, where you have the interaction with the screens, or you have the temperature and light adjustment to where you are walking in. I mean, there's whole case studies about that building, so I can just encourage you to check that one out, where you also have the ability to individual control. And of course, everything is again data generation, and as a facility manager, you have access to it and you can work on that. And I put in one thing about WeWork, because Ola had it on its slides. And remember, WeWork is one of those $168 billion companies, unicorns out there. They are basically considered to be more worth than Regus. And that's, for me, a great example of how the market currently looks at these things. So keep in mind, Regus owns the buildings. I think Regus is worth like $4 billion on the stock market. You can check it out. Regus owns the office buildings. they basically rent it. But what they created is basically then more than just a property. So it's a way of lifestyle, it's a way of feeling, it's a way of cooperating. And I think a big benchmark worldwide you have here actually with the epicenter. So I haven't seen a concept like this actually. So my point is something like epicenter is way more worth than just the office building, just the real estate. It's really more to it. And as Ola said, we will see like co-living, etc. I want to finish now with like an interesting technology that you also should really look deeper into it, because every one of you heard about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, etc. This has a real tangible impact on real estate, because around blockchain we can do stuff, for instance, like international real estate trading, and have it then really safely secured in the blockchain. Proppy, am I talking okay actually, or can you follow me? I should have get more coffee and then I'm almost done. What's interesting about Proppy, now I'm actually awake, now I can go on for an hour. What's interesting about Proppy, two things. First of all, have you heard about ICOs, initial coin offerings? It's quite interesting. So what you do is based on the blockchain. It's like an IPO where where you have shares and you say like, hey, you can invest in my company by buying shares. They created a virtual currency based on the Ethereum network, and now investors are able to say like, yeah, I believe in that. Now I'm buying a coin of you. What they did is they raised 15 million in a matter of seconds. So, they said, this is what we want to do around real estate, and within seconds, they raised 50 million from 7,000 participants. And what they're offering is like based on blockchain real estate projects that you can basically pay with your virtual currency. We will see a lot around blockchain for like assets, like asset protection, because the blockchain is unbreakable. So, it's really a safe way to secure, actually, this real estate thing is mine. Like, I own that property, and there is no way to basically, broke it. And so I think we will see more of this, like basically using these virtual currencies, etc. So hopefully, this was a way of introducing you to the day. I know it was a lot of information, but hopefully you got a sense that there is some exponential stuff happening. It affects all sorts of areas in PropTech. And you have an amazing agenda, so thank you. Thank you. So, thank you. Thank you.